Who are you? Are you the person that lets their accomplishments, every single thing that they've achieved, what they do, what they wear, how they act, define their personality? We as people get so caught up in what we do and let that define us, because those are the people that we have to be. We have to be certain people to fit a specific mold, to work in a certain environment, to be a perfect blank. But why let those stereotypical characteristics let yourself define yourself like that? Because who are you and what do you do are two different things. And I think so often we ask people, what do you do for a living? What do you do in your spare time? Rather than asking people, what do you love to do? And I think that's just a geographical difference in your upbringing and the social norms. But you don't have to be defined by that. You don't have to be necessarily tied to the society that you live in. You can be a mesh, you can be a mix, you can be undefined. Because we set ourselves in these mental boxes because we're so used to acting like blank. For example, I have to work in very logical situations of using my brain. And so I am used to being someone who has to be very logical. But deep down, I do not personally enjoy being so logical all the time. Sometimes I would rather just live, enjoy life, rather than having to methodically think through every single thing. And I think I've started to realize that I don't have to do that anymore. That, yeah, I can be that person, but I can also be somebody who's soft and caring and loving and not a free spirit, but a free spirit, you know? You don't necessarily have to define your personality by the things that you do and the people that you hang around with. And once you give yourself that permission to do that, that's when the world can open up. That's when you can see the world from a different perspective. You no longer put pressure on yourself to accomplish those goals that you want to. You no longer have it in your head that you have to be perfect every single day, and that you realize that you can be independent. That your ability to be independent from society can open your mind and perspective to so many different things. I'm in an innovation class, and his whole entire scheme of this is to literally think outside the box. And so in a typical test quiz, you think that you need to do X, Y, and Z, A through D, 1 through 4, like all these things, because that's stereotypical. That is the things that we think that we have to do because that's the way that we become successful, to climb the ladder to get the money, honey. But climbing that ladder and getting that money doesn't define you. Because what does? That's a question for you to answer. And so often we let those factors define us. Oh, I make, 100 euros, 100 pounds, 100 Canadian dollars, 100 US dollars, like, you know what I'm saying? Just because we have external things doesn't mean those things can't be taken away within a minute, within a second. Think about that. You don't know how fast something can be taken away from you just because you have it now. And I think one of the most important things is to realize that, and I think that is something that is so important to realize, is that the things that you define from external factors can leave you and be gone within seconds. So do not define yourself by that, because then you could be lost. You're like, oh, I am a doctor and I make $200,000. Next day you get fired. Who are you? And the same thing happens to athletes. I think specifically like within swimming, a lot of people walk away from the pool, and within sports and with track and with cross country, football, literally any single sport, and they don't know who they are and they feel lost. So lost. And I think that becomes you tie yourself and you tie your identity with something, with someone. And regardless, you should be independent. You should be so independent and free, because when you can tie yourself to things that are so physical, so external, so out of your control, you lose yourself. I genuinely think you lose yourself, because your head is so tied up in those things, and it leaves you no space for yourself to ask yourself, who am I? Who are you? And I say this because last week, me and like a new student, like who's in like my cohort, and he's like a biochem major, and so we're in the same cohort because chemistry. And so he was like, tell me some of your accomplishments. And I, not even to be like pompous about it or anything, but like I was naming off a few things, like, oh, I used to play an instrument when I was a kid, like I could play the flute, like if I had a gun to my head I could play the flute. I know how to cook, I love to bake, as you guys know. I mean, just simple small stuff like that. Like I did hit a few curbs, and I was like, since 2026 I haven't hit a curb. I have hit a few curbs, but just a girl. And he, on the other hand, was just nothing wrong, nothing wrong. He tells me, oh, I bought my car. Oh, I worked being in the hospital, $60,000 as a high school student. I was a president of this club at my old college. I did this. I was a musician, made All-State. And I guess I just, not to put him down because those accomplishments are very good, but I told him straight to my face that like, I'm like, I see face value, and that's it. I mean face value, I don't think I'm using that in the right term, but like face value, I just see it and I'm like, okay, cool. Like, who are you? Who are you without those? Because I think I value so much the interpersonal human rather than what they do and who they are. I think that really showed up today because this is really cheesy, but I like got back from a practice. We had recruits here and a lot of my friends were like gone, so I didn't like hang out with them. And so I was like, well, they were holding like a casino night. It's like fake. It's so fake. And it was just like two clubs came together and they did like a casino night, and like one was like for fundraising and then another was like a college club that like hosts activities and whatnot, and they like combined it together and did like a casino night. And so I went to that, and it was so fun because I loved networking with people. I loved talking. I loved learning how to play poker and how to play blackjack and all these other games, and I had nothing to lose. I literally lost like 600 fake coins, whatever, and I had so much fun because I asked the main person who's doing poker, and I was like, how long have you been doing this? And he said since 2003, and he said he moved from like the western part of the country and he moved here and he was just like telling me about it all, and not even all, and it was just like, oh, okay, cool. And then he's been doing like the casino work for a while, and I was like, hi, excuse me, do you have time for a question? And then I was like, why'd you come here? And then he was like, to take care of my kids and my mom. I was like, oh, okay. And then he was like, well, what's your name? And I was like, Emma. And then I was like, what's your name? Or he's like, it was whatever. But it was the small conversations of learning who somebody is more than just their occupation. And I think that's so valuable, to see somebody for who they are, because that's when you can actually make genuine connections, and that's when you realize that you can have a life so much more than what you do, because that's not who you are. And I think just being able to go beyond a relationship, things that you let yourself be defined by, is when you can actually like learn who you are, learn what you want to do, and kind of reimagine yourself to be somebody more than what you could ever think. So I want to leave you with this. When was the last time you actually knew what you wanted to do? Not to get to your next goal, not to waste time, so guilty, but actually, what did you want to do? Because we cloud who we want to become, the idea of who we want to become, was the person who we are currently. So remember, sometimes take a moment to smell the roses, because the person you were a while ago would love to be the person you are now. And so ask yourself, what do I want to do? Rather than, at times, who do I want to be? And what do I want to be? So be present. Food for thought.